Welcome to part 4 of the Women in Soccer Career Fair. Carly is ready to go and we love it. We are going to dive right into our panel, our final panel of the day before our last workshop and then open networking. I will give you Lindsay Jones, who is the EVP of Marketing over at Goal 5, who will moderate the panel, and then I will let you all do the introducing to the other folks, Carly, Ann, and CARI, and take it away, Lindsay.
Great. Thank you. I'm so stoked to be here with incredible women. I guess we'll kick off since we don't have a ton of time. I think CARI is still trying to join. But as Rachel said, yeah, I work for Goal 5. I'm head of marketing over there. My background is in sport, always has been. Played soccer, multi-sports in high school, but played soccer all of my life through college. Professionally coached after that, have been in and around the game in many different industries in the nonprofit world and now in the for-profit performance apparel world. So I'm excited to be here. They're amazing. I'm not even going to try to introduce them myself. So we're going to do a little popcorn and I'll let you guys introduce yourselves and then I'll kick it off with a few questions. So Carly, you want to start?
Yeah, of course. I'm Carly. I'm originally from St. Helens, which is a small town between Liverpool and Manchester in England. So I think soccer or football, as I would say, is somewhat in my blood. My dad also works for Manchester United, if that excites anyone in the room. But currently, I am a designer at Nike and I service Nike's female tennis athletes, which includes me working closely with Naomi Osaka.
Super cool. Will you tell us the abridged version of how you got there?
Yes, and I'll do my best, I promise this time. My practice did not go well, but you know, obviously I'm English and I was lucky enough just along my journey to get some really great, one of a kind, still can't believe it, opportunities such as a sponsorship of $100,000 from Diane von Furstenberg to go to New York and study an MFA at Parsons. And without that opportunity, I absolutely would not be at Nike. You know, that kind of introduced me to working here in the USA and all of those amazing connections along the way. And, you know, I'm just a girl from a working class town that makes a whole bunch of coal and glass. But I've just always knew that I wanted to be in design and be in fashion. And I kind of never really stopped along the way, just giving absolutely everything 110%. And I can definitely say that in both my undergraduate and graduate classes, which in fashion is super competitive, I was not the most talented. Like, I absolutely was not. But like, I'm pretty firm in that I was the hardest working in both of my kind of educational experiences. And I'm pretty sure I might be one of the hardest working people in my job right now, which obviously is somewhat easy to do when you're super passionate and enjoying it. But really it was I think my drive that has landed me in this like absolutely bonkers position of working with Naomi.
Very cool. I'm excited for everybody that's listening to learn a little bit more about your inspiring story from, you know, the north of England to designing for one of the most wonderful women in sports today. Super cool. Awesome. Ann, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Ann KLETZ, and I'm the co-founder and CEO at Goal 5, GOALFIVE. We are a sports brand for her. And on this panel, I am the one person that has no design background, but yet crazy, decided to leap off and start a company, an apparel company. I do know, though, what I love and always loved is building companies. And I was just for a few minutes in one of the chat rooms talking about entrepreneurship. And so throughout my career, I've built nonprofit organizations, for-profit companies, and also always had a very strong kind of social justice and mission-driven bent on things that I've done. And when I was approached actually by one of my other co-founders about the idea behind Goal 5, and you can check us out online, it's goal5.com. I thought, okay, this is the company I've wanted to start for like the last 10 years, a mission-driven for-profit company. And the mission is really around gender equity and pushing forward for equality in sport and making sure that girls living in low-income communities have access to sport. Because our belief is that when girls play sports, they become empowered on the field and off. So all of those things compelled me to join up with some others to start an apparel company. And I think what the last thing I'll just say in terms of what I think has served me well and my approach is I've been extremely focused on the team that we have hired. And my approach is to hire people who know a hell of a lot more than I do and then let them lead. And so that is for sure what I have done on the design side, since I do not have any design background, really bad at it. So I've made sure that I've hired and surrounded our team with people who are brilliant. So our designer she actually designed the Women's World Cup uniform for Nike in 2003. She's worked for Icebreaker and Lucy and Adidas, and she's brilliant. And then several other people on the product team now too that have that kind of 25, 30 years experience in apparel design and production. So that's how I have built a company where I have zero expertise. In fact, I'll just tell one quick funny story and then I'm gonna end. I tell my team, and Linz can attest to this, that if we are designing a t-shirt, like one of our graphic tees, and the question comes to me, what do you think about it, Anne? And I'm like, I don't know if I like it. I know it's going to be a bestseller. So anyways.
I love it.
I'll hand it over.
Awesome. Welcome, Anne. CARI, will you tell us a little bit about you?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm CARI SEKENDUR. I'm the principal creative director of Butter Studio, and we're a design firm based in New York that actually did the branding and website design for women in soccer. And we focus on specifically working with game changers in sports, and similar to Anne and Goal 5. For us, it's really important to use our skill set as designers, which really, as brand designers, we're really shaping how people perceive companies. And so I think as designers, we have a responsibility to do that for companies that we believe in. And that's the reason I focused the studio on working with game changers in sports, specifically women in sports, and really using our power to shape how companies are perceived for the better and to drive forward the equity that we all want to see in the world. And that I grew up playing sports, and everyone here, I'm sure, really knows the power of them and how sports really impact much more beyond just a game and are really kind of a lens to culture at large. So there's a lot of power in designing within sports. And I'll just quickly share a little bit about how I got here because it's kind of unconventional. I am a designer, art director, creative director now, but I didn't start that way. So I was told when I was going to college when I was 18 that I can't become a starving artist. So I didn't study art and had kind of regretted that. Started my career working in marketing and operations. And then a company I was working for, a startup, laid off the whole office, and I actually used that as an opportunity to pivot and switch careers to graphic design. And I found a program that was a 3-month intensive 40-hour-a-week program, so I didn't need to do pay for 2 years and a master's degree. And that really was the perfect stepping stone for me to start working for design studios. And then from many years of doing that, started Butter.
I love that. And I think I'm already hearing a theme between the three of you guys, just everyone has just taken a chance and I think put themselves out there perhaps in environments where they didn't have expertise or were chasing a passion. And I love how Carly's dead set. She's the hardest worker out there. I'm sure all three of you guys are, and that's why you are where you are today. And Carrie, I was going to ask you about that inspiration because I think the kind of unconventional path to where you are today is actually quite inspirational, because oftentimes we find ourselves down one pathway and it's pretty scary to take a chance and go another direction. So, all right, Carly, back to you, you know, kind of on this theme of saying yes and going for it. Where does that grit come from to put yourself out there?
I think it's really easy to work hard when you know what you want. And I was always really grateful, even when I was finishing up high school, like I knew what I wanted to do. And I had a lot of friends who weren't sure. And I think that actually shouldn't be taken lightly, you know, but I think this doesn't need to be a lifelong goal. You can obviously set a micro goal, but then that you focus incredibly hard on that and with regards to my specific drive, I don't know. What I do know is, like, one of my earliest memories is over the summer holidays being at my grandma's house, and she always had really nice pens and pencils, and I used to make like catalogs of like whoever remembers getting clothing in catalogs, and I would even write out, you know, the price and the fabric, and I just wanted to be like this clothing designer, probably before I even really knew what that meant. But on a practical level, when I was getting older, you know, I would kind of research, okay, so like this person, they're doing what I want to do. What did they do? And I kind of mapped out, you know, okay, so I need to go and study this. You know, I did a ton of internships. I basically just, you know, from being a very young age, figured out a path I needed to go down, and then just gave that like absolutely everything, you know. And I was crazy. Like I used to skip all my like classes, but I would be in the textiles lab, you know, working on my textiles projects. And like obviously that teacher never told me off because she loved that I was like, you know, gonna make probably gonna get a good grade. But yeah, I think I was really lucky in kind of in my bones always knowing that this was something that made me happy and I wanted to explore.
Did you ever fight off the naysayers?
You know, I was really lucky, you know, unlike CARI, who really had to fight to prove herself. My parents were super supportive, and you know, we were working class, you know, we didn't have a lot of money. I've worked from like the age of 12, Avon lady, and then, you know, in a little tiny pub. But they would scrounge together what they could to support me in this endeavor. So I actually remember, you know, my mum taking me to the fabric shop, and I loved this super fancy fabric, and she could see me admiring it, and I was like, no, you know, it's too much, and she made it happen in support of like this pipe dream.
That's super. I think that early on. Sorry, yeah, Carla, we've got the reverb with you. Yeah, no, you're super lucky, I think, and I'd love, Carrie, to learn a little bit more about that and how your path is differentiated from that. And, you know, the whole kind of not being a starving artist thing, was that overt, or was that just, you know, this kind of societal expectation that you thought, I should probably plug in one of these traditional pathways?
It's funny because it was definitely overt. At the time when I was starting college, my parents were going through a divorce, and there was financial trouble, and so there was like a lot of pressure that I felt from them to make the right choice, I guess. But the funny part of that is I majored in women and gender studies, which is not super practical. So I don't know if I really took their advice. I guess I took the artist thing literally, but not the like, do become a doctor, lawyer, I don't know, something more practical. So yeah, I think it was, I just like had no reference for it when I was that age. I didn't know anyone in a creative field, so I didn't know what a career like.
Right.
Yeah. So it took like me getting myself over that hurdle rather than just going for it and believing and trusting myself from the beginning, which is kind of like, if I were to recommend a tip to people, it's like, at least if you're coming from a place where I was kind of like, I know I want to do this thing, but I'm scared. It's to really trust your instinct. And like, as Carly's saying, that when there's a will, there's a way. It sounds corny, but it's true. And that's something, looking back, I wish I had trusted myself more, although I don't regret any of the experiences I had. They all laddered up to this.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Sense of believing in yourself, right? Carrie, one more question on that, you know, talking about what you majored in college, how does that, I imagine that's very directly related to why you specifically have an interest in designing for women's sports. Why do you believe, or what role do you believe design has more broadly in women's sports?
Glad that you made that connection too, because I say like my degree wasn't that useful, but it actually completely shaped my worldview, and it's clearly like a pillar of the company I'm running. So I think, you know, design is so powerful, as I was saying, for shaping, you know, people judge books by their cover. They do. Aesthetics are really important. They resonate with people emotionally. They get people excited. And so I think design has a big opportunity to, like, along with everything else that's going on in women's sports, really elevate the industry and make it that something that more and more people want to be a part of. You know, like if there's really cool kits or really cool logos, or and I'm sure Carly and Anne could speak to this too, but it's design, whether it's on apparel or it's digital, you know, it's a website or it's a campaign, it's an emotional experience for people. So if we can create things that get people excited, it will just continue to help drive more passion and excitement around the women's game across sports, I think.
Yeah, I love that. And builds community, right? I mean, everything that we've been seeing even around, you know, the WNBA hoodie going viral, and people connecting around women's sports through apparel more specifically, and design. So, all right, Anne, how about you? I work for Goal 5, so I can say this, right? But there's tons of performance apparel brands out there. So why Goal 5?
I was typing. Give me a more specific question. Like what?
Well, what makes it different? You know, why is Goal 5 different from Nike, Adidas, Lululemon, Athleta, these performance brands that do have apparel for women? Why is Goal 5 different?
Gotcha. Okay, you're changing tacks on me. I'm following you. I was laughing at myself actually because I was really resonating with what Kari was saying. And so I said, follow your guy, and actually meant to say your gut. Anyways, that's
I'm reading the chat a little bit. I'm like, oh, St. Helens rugby team, like, oh, trying to focus both sides. Anyway.
So for the record, don't follow your guy, follow your gut. Okay. Why is Goal 5 different? I think the very first thing that makes us different, or differentiator, or unique advantage, if you will, is all of our focus is on the female athlete, and we are led by women. So if you think about, I call the Nikes, the Under Armours, the Adidas, the kind of big boys, you know, those companies are led by men. Their target customer is a 16-year-old boy or a boy, and, you know, so much of their resources and attention are given to the male and the male athlete. We're turning that upside down, both of those things. We're led by women. We have, you know, majority of our leadership team, our investors actually are women, and majority of our founders are women, and all of our target customer is 16, 18-year-old girl. And all of our resources, every single penny that we have in the company and our time, is dedicated to the female athlete. And we design our product around her, who she is, what her desires are, what her body is like, And I think that that's really the differentiator for us. On top of that is that we're authentically a mission-driven company. So, Linz, you know, as our head of marketing, when we go out there and we do a marketing campaign around the NWSL, you know, which we're to help raise money for the players, or we're working with Soccer Without Borders, one of our nonprofits, you know, that comes from a very authentic place. And it's not just a sales play or strategy. So I think those are the key differentiators for Goal 5. I can go in deeper in terms of like the design of our apparel. I don't know if that's of interest since we are talking about design, but I'll stop unless that's what people want me to go into a little deeper.
What do the people want? Yeah, well, let's talk about that a little bit, right? Like the design aspect. What does that do for women? I think getting back to what Carrie's saying, what do you feel Goal 5 is doing for women emotionally? You know, related to how they feel, look, perform.
Mm-hmm. I think our brand, first of all, is seeing women as athletes. I don't think the world actually sees women as athletes yet. I don't believe that. And you can see that borne out in the statistics of how much the media covers women's sports, which is 5%, you know, and it's been 5% for 25 years. So I don't believe that the world actually sees women as athletes. I think the world sees women as people who are working out and training, going to the gym. And I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I like to believe that we're one of the first brands that actually acknowledges that women are athletes and lifelong athletes. And I think Title IX in this country has really helped us with that since we're approaching 50 years of Title IX. So we now have 2 full generations of women and young women who have played sports and team sports their whole lives. So they really have this, like, I call it like athlete identity to who they are. And we're hoping to be the brand that speaks to them.
I love that. It's so true. I'm seeing Carly sent a message, which is a good segue because I was going to ask her a question, but she says in the chat, if you look good, you'll feel good and play good. So Carly, what's it like designing for one of the greats?
It's amazing, and she is a phenomenal collaborator, and truly I am so lucky. I'm sure it will come as no surprise to anyone. She does not have an ego. She's incredibly humble. And it truly is an honor to try and empower her and support her. And exactly, I really, really feel and believe in if they're looking good, they're feeling confident, they're feeling ready to show up, obviously on the tennis court in my case. And, you know, the decisions that we make for the design can have a huge impact. You know, this isn't a Naomi example, but a Serena example. You know, for the Australian Open this year, she had that crazy one-legged bodysuit, and when designing that, I had really no idea the effect that was going to have, kind of outside the sport. But I was really just trying to please her with something really cool and something really fun to kick off the new year. I think that collided with how much she actually loved it. You know, she was talking about it extensively, and I feel like that was reflected in her game. You know, she ultimately went all the way to the semis where Naomi beat her, which is always really tough for me to watch. But next thing you know, this outfit is on the front of the New York Times with the headline, you know, Serena's catsuit has already won the US Open. And just a ton of love for it. You know, people saw that we'd kind of referenced FloJo for that outfit. And coincidentally, because of COVID, the Australian Open was moved to February during Black History Month. And people were then really excited that they felt like Serena was throwing back to another amazing, strong Black athlete. And we kind of moved the world, which is crazy because it was just me drawing a cool outfit to discuss. And again, I think you can't underestimate the power that design has that could, you know, uplift a whole community or further. And I've strayed from your question, but working with Naomi is almost frightening in that aspect, because I think we've seen the tip of the iceberg with her scope and her reach. and she's a new breed. You know, typically if you ask an athlete, you know, what's your biggest goal? You know, again, I'm using tennis references for the soccer crowd, but, you know, I want to win 30 Grand Slams. I want to be the most, win the most on clay ever in history. That's what the answers we're used to hearing. What you hear Naomi say is, if I inspire one young girl to play tennis, that's my dream. She is a new breed, and really, I just have to try and keep up with her.
I love that. I mean, especially you know, with activism and sports as well. And Naomi's such a big part of that. I think the platform, and yeah, I was just going to ask you, the platform, especially in women's tennis, is so big. And I'm a sports fan generally and love watching Naomi and Serena play, but you're so right. You see the presence and the way, you know, Serena in that example walks out onto court wearing such a powerful celebratory, you know, I don't know what it's called in tennis. I was about to say kit, which is what you call it in soccer, but you know what I mean. And it is, and Carrie was saying this earlier, there's an emotional connection there. So, Anne, I see your mic off. Do you have an addition?
Yeah, I was just going to give like a personal anecdote about, you know, how when you are wearing the right gear, you actually feel better. And I think it helps you play better, excuse me. I mean, I grew up playing soccer. I played collegiately. That was my sport. And I continue to play. And I'm getting older, as you can all see. And so I still play in this co-ed league, and we have to be like different color every season. And I never had anything to wear, you know. And I realized that this, you know, I realized when we started this company, I always have had to settle. I've always had to settle for men's gear. So there's something in the apparel industry that is called shrink and pink. Basically, it's a strategy of taking a men's silhouette and shrinking it down and making it pink or purple. And that's where a lot of companies will call that, you know, a women's line. And it just realized that I had been settling my entire life and having to kind of wear men's clothing out on the soccer field that just was too big. You know, the shorts were way too big. That's why all the girls roll their shorts at the waist. The shirts were way too big. It's just way too much fabric. And so I'd go out for this adult league. And, you know, I'm already feeling self-conscious because I'm older now. My skills are, you know, not as sharp, but I still want to perform as well as I can. It's, you know, it's an ego thing. And then when we started designing our own gear, and I finally had shorts, our Excel short is our bestseller, but we have other styles now. We're becoming known for our shorts. You know, I had shorts that fit. And then all of a sudden I had tops that fit. I didn't, you know, have to literally go into my husband's drawer and pull out like his clothes. I got out on the field and I was like, wow, you know what? I look a little bit better now. Let me just like run a little harder. So I think it's definitely, you know, it goes hand in hand. You have to feel like you're in the proper gear, you know, for your sport. And when you are, you know, you're just like, that is like thrown to the side. I don't have to worry about how I look. I don't have to worry about like hiking things up or rolling things up in the middle of play. You know, it's all there. I know it looks good. I know it fits me. And the only thing I have to like focus on is performing, you know, so.
Yeah, it's great. I'm looking at the clock here. I'm not quite sure if we're going to just get kicked off or not. So I'll say that. We only have about a minute left, and I know the day's jam-packed. So Carrie, I'm going to put you on the spot here, but maybe you can leave us with some parting inspiration about, you know, what role you think design can have in women's sports in the future, even more so than it is now.
Yeah, I think one thing I wanted to share is, and Anne had touched on this, is just how the statistics, like there are not that many women designing for women. Like in my industry, 0.1% of creative agencies are owned by women. I don't know what it is in fashion, but it's really, you know, it's rare. And so I think the more we can get women behind the scenes working for women, the better the clothes are going to fit, the more that everything's going to be geared toward us. It's going to speak to us, and we're not going to just be taking men's designs, whether it's apparel, whatever it might be, and using it for women's sports. So we have an opportunity to really like create a space that we own.
And I know Anne does this. I'm assuming you do as well, Carrie, running your own agency, probably very intentionally seeking out those women, right, to provide the opportunities for them to be the ones speaking that truth. So awesome. You guys are amazing. We've got the dream team here. Maybe we'll all run off and start a company together. Thank you guys for having us. Rachel, I don't know how this rolls. Are you jumping in? Okay.
Yes, I've got it. Lindsay, if you all do start a dream team company, I'm ready. I'm ready to help buy or just invite me to something, please. Thank you so much, Carly, CARI, and it is such a pleasure. We have a special discount for all attendees, courtesy of Goal 5. Thanks for being here. Site-wide discount with 15. Get after it. Get into that site and get some of that amazing gear. CARI, SEKENDUR, Butter Studio, Carly Ellis over at Nike Court. You all are really changing the game physically and visually. So we thank you for that. I have my final pin is a Butter Studio pin. CARI has some really neat little pins that she sent us over the holiday season. So I just wanted to give that shout out. You all are welcome to close over your cameras and pop off stage while I welcome our next guest up for our final workshop and final segment for the day before open networking, which you'll want to stick around for open networking. We have a raffle that we're doing. It will center around the Diversity Fellowship Program. If you had some notes on that, you might want to brush up. But I welcome Rachel BUZKAR from the United Soccer League to lead us in our last workshop on resume building and interviewing 101. Everyone's going to leave supercharged because Rachel's energy is palpable. Rachel, take it away.
Well, now I feel like I have so much to live up to, but thank you so much, Rachel. I am thrilled to be here, and what a great day of such valuable content that Women in Soccer has put on. So I lead with gratitude for having me and being such a great partner to United Soccer League, and I am happy to be here and wrap up with one final workshop and then sticking around for the open networking sessions, as that is where a lot of the value of these types of events lie within. So I will go ahead and jump right in. I'm going to try my best to stay very close to understand that we want to make that open networking event. And I want to make sure that I'm leaving a good 5 to 10 minutes for some questions at the end, but please do feel free as we're going through this to pop questions in the chat, and I will do my best to keep an eye on that as well. But again, as Rachel mentioned, I am here to do a workshop on resume building and interviewing 101, our favorite topic, but one that is very near and dear to my heart, being an HR practitioner and professional within the space of sports. So just a quick intro about myself. My name is Rachel BUZKAR. I am the VP of People for United Soccer League. I joined the league back in 2018 and have been there through a time of extreme growth, not only from a league perspective, but also from a team member perspective. And that trajectory continues. And it's really exciting that we are continuing our partnerships with such valuable organizations such as this, and getting to talk to you all today, because having individuals feel really confident in their resume building and interviewing skills when we are trying to get our workforce to be more progressive in terms of gender equity and BIPOC populations is very important by having this job knowledge, networking, and sharing ideas. So we'll talk a lot today about tips and tricks, but my information is here as well. So it is welcome to all of you. If you ever want to reach out for a one-off conversation and just discuss best practices, or maybe how to break down some of those roadblocks to you, I am happy to do so. And I've been in the profession of HR for over a decade now, and continues to be an industry that is beautiful and challenging, one of the reasons why I got into HR was because it is so dynamic, and we are dealing with people and people cultures and organizations, and it is not always a formula. It's trial and error. The same rings true when you are building your tool belt when it comes to resumes and interviewing. So again, information is here to contact me, and it is welcome to you all. So just to dive in, I want to take us all through a small exercise just as a baseline. So let's all just start with one big deep breath. So what we are going to do is we are going to take a deep breath in for 3 seconds and then exhale for 3 seconds. So if you could all engage with me, we're going to breathe in, 1, 2, 3, and out, 1, 2, 3. So I do that for twofold. One, it calms my own nerves. We're all human. We all get nervous, and we'll kind of pivot into that when we talk about interviewing skills. But really, another reason why this is a great exercise is because on average, 6 seconds is the average length of time that an individual is going to be reviewing your resume. So I bring that up because it is to highlight that your resume is a beautiful tool, but it is a highlight reel. So really being concise in your messaging and what you are wanting that initial frontline manager, that HR professional to see about you and where you're wanting your career path to go is key to success in getting that next step. Which leads me to ATS systems. And ATS systems stand for applicant tracking systems. And it's important to understand what those systems are. They certainly serve a needed function for all of us HR professionals, as it helps us to navigate resumes and backgrounds of individuals when we have a plethora of candidates who apply to any one system. However, it can be tricky to navigate because the way that these systems are built is that it is essentially an algorithm that is just pulling your resume and looking for either keywords or skills to potentially put you at the top of the pile when we, as the practitioner, are going in and reviewing possible candidates. So it does make the landscape a little trickier to navigate. I will tell you the best way for you to bypass ATS systems, applicant tracking systems, is to network. Networking is key to success by bypassing those ATS systems. Once you know a network connection that you can use, and you can send a polite email saying that you saw a great opportunity and have applied, that will then ping that person, regardless of where the ATS system puts you, to have a look at your resume. So networking is key to bypassing some of those ATS systems that many of us use for applicants within our positions. So moving along, I want us all to keep in mind when we're talking about resume building, first and foremost, resume advice can be subjective. So I give the disclaimer that what we're going to talk about today is just through my professional experience and my education. You may do a different workshop or hear different advice that is different than what I'm going to explain today. That's okay. That is because building your resume can be very subjective. Outside of specific things, yes, you want to put your previous experience. No, in my opinion, not all experience is relevant. There are some certain things that are going to be on there, but a lot of it is up to you to really navigate what is the role that you're looking for and what resonates with the industry that you're potentially applying within. And moving on from that, polishing your own resume is always the most difficult thing to do. I'm sure with colleagues, friends, family, somebody at some point may have come to you and asked you to take a look at their resume. You have 10 great tips you can give them right off the top and what resonates and where they can maybe tweak something, but you get to your own and it's an extremely daunting task. I can tell you from personal experience, and even though I have seen and reviewed thousands upon thousands of resumes, it still rings true for myself. So you are in company with many others if you find reviewing your resume and tweaking your resume as being a bit of a difficult task. What I mean to hopefully we will learn today are some really great tips and tricks to make that a little easier for you. I will also say that if you are not receiving interest, do not be afraid to make tweaks and adjustment to your resume. So if you're applying to numerous jobs, you haven't heard any feedback, there are some ways to tweak your resume. Maybe something is not translating for the role that you are wanting. You are going to want to look at your resume and make sure that it is industry specific and role specific as much as you can. And then I will also say, and leave on this before we dive in, keep in mind that your resume has a job too. Your resume's job is not to get you the job opportunity. You will get yourself the job opportunity through the interview process. Your resume's job is to get you the job interview. Whether that starts with a phone interview in person, I know we are all still, many of us are still operating virtually. Your resume's job is to get you that interview. So bear that in mind when we talk about streamlining your resume content. So resume building, moving along and thinking that your resume has a job to get you that job interview, it is key to be concise, okay? Again, this is not going to be the document that gets you the job. Your interviewing skills will get you the job. Your resume is just to be a highlight reel for you to get that interview. So keep in mind, rule of thumb, again, can be adjusted as necessary, but typical rule of thumb is when you are entering the workforce, you should try to keep your resume to a page. Again, keep in mind in the beginning, if you think I have 6 seconds on average to make an impression on whomever is viewing my resume. Some organizations start with HR as being that first review. Some start with department leadership being that first reviewer. When you are moving into management, typically what we see on average is a 2-page resume. And when you exceed beyond that to your next executive level role, typically 3 pages is a maximum that we see for that role. Again, can be adjusted as necessary, but it's a really great rule of thumb to use when you are trying to be very concise in your resume and what message you are trying to get across within those 6 seconds. Also, always, as much as you can, speak on your resume. And when we talk about interviews, this will come up again, but using active voice. What we are looking for as practitioners in this space are active verbs and an active voice. So passively saying, well, I was tasked with mentoring new hires, that's great, but to have an impact in your document that you're trying to get that interview with, a better way to do that is to say, mentored new hires so they were better prepared for the role and understood expectations. So as often as you can, lead with that active verb. What did you do? Not necessarily what you were tasked with. Inherently, if you were tasked with something, chances are you accomplish that, especially if it's something that you're wanting to highlight on your resume. So lead with that active voice and those active verbs. This is just a small snippet, a Google search. There are hundreds of examples of how to tweak your language from a passive language to an active language within your resume. Also, as much as you can, in addition to the task, which brings me to the next topic, focus on achievements. So in that previous example, not only did you mentor new hires, but the results of that and the achievement of that was they were better equipped to be successful within their role because they knew expectations. So as much as you can, traditionally we see the job title and the list of duties and responsibilities. Your first pull will be to tweak that to active language and then include an achievement along with whatever that function was. That shows an organization where you may be able to drive even more value within that organization that you go to next. Data and metrics are key. I can tell you firsthand, data and metrics are a cross-role function. Traditionally, HR, not everybody would see that as a really strong data-driven, especially in the traditional sense of the job role, is not necessarily seen as a data-driven responsibility. However, when we use data to portray a message, the impact is much stronger. So if I say on my resume, my goal was to reduce turnover, okay. But if I say achieved a turnover reduction of 35% within 18 months, that actually puts metric and a measurement behind just what my task was. As a practitioner, we are looking for that within the resume to identify high-performing potential candidates for that role. To be fair, if you're beginning and you don't know those numbers, ask someone within your organization. Data is key. Metrics are key because they're going to be a similar thread throughout your professional experience as you continue to move forward to that next position or that next career ladder that you are going to achieve. Your resume's format and style should be reflective of your role and industry. For example, if I am applying as the next VP of HR within a traditional finance industry, I don't know if that would be at the top of my list, but let's use it as a hypothetical. The traditional style of that resume in terms of, and you can Google these templates, I'm sure there's an executive template. It's very data driven, it's words, it's very streamlined in terms of executive summary, competencies, and then what did you achieve. That may work in that setting. However, and I will tell you from firsthand experience, for us within United Soccer League, one thing that catches our eye, especially, is from individuals who tweak their resume to their role and to their expertise. For example, we were in the process of looking for a stellar graphic artist, and it garnered a lot of attention. We had a number of really qualified, wonderful candidates. One of those candidates, among many, but this one stuck out to me. The candidate actually tweaked their resume. It was very stylized, and that's great because it's a creative role. So they're using that as a marketing tool to showcase some of their skills. But they even went further. They did something as small as taking the eye point and shifting that to a silhouette graphic that they did of a Bitmoji of themselves. And just small tweaks like that you can make that will really make someone say, wow, that's a really great idea. I would love to look at their portfolio. I would love to hear what other ideas that they have. So think about that when you are considering industry. Of course, sports specific is always more progressive. We're always trying to think of cool, innovative ideas. What can we do? How can we think different? So you have a little more creative freedom in terms of the stylistic abilities of your resume, but I would definitely say, do make sure you're still portraying the message you want your reviewers to receive within that finite amount of time. So moving along and rebuilding on that purpose of your resume, this is key to success with building your own resume. Again, rethink your resume's purpose. I cannot stress that enough. It took me a mindset shift. It's also been a great mindset shift for us within USL to make sure that we're vetting candidates with this lens. Your resume is your marketing tool. It is not necessarily an entire history of your work experience everywhere that you ever worked, from the time that you were in high school to current, or college to current. It's a marketing tool. So really think, what is the job that I want? How can I brand myself and highlight what specific skills resonate to that job or role position that I am applying for? Where can I edit? What is potentially not needed for that position? If I am applying to a creative services position, I'm really going to want to focus on my ability to think outside of the box, right? And how did I add value to a marketing campaign? How did I take inspiration from my local community and build that into something that was extremely impactful? You really are going to want to take time to edit yourself when you're looking at your resume. And the goal, if your resume gets you that job interview, then that is the time where you can really take a deep dive into job specific tasks, etc. Also, again, remember your resume's job. It is to get you that interview, not to get you the role. So a few other minor housekeeping items that I always recommend. It's not necessary to include your physical address. Save yourself the space when we're thinking of a very finite amount of time that somebody is reviewing your resume. Every single detail you include, you're going to want to make sure that you want to keep it on there. So save yourself the space. I do tell people, if they are open to relocation, keep that on there. That is perfectly acceptable, but save a physical address space. Do include your LinkedIn URL if it is a creative opportunity, a link to your professional portfolio or examples. That way we can even do a even deeper dive if we're interested in seeing some of that work product. Those are also things we can ask you for during the interview. One thing that you would be surprised we see often is the difference in formatting. So my rule of thumb and what we ask candidates to do to be safe is to always save and submit your resume as a PDF. So you never know what that applicant tracking system is capable of. Some are very robust, some are not. And you never know what systems the individual is going to be using who's looking at your resume. So we really see this often. What we see is Word, great, okay, Google Sheets, that's great, but if we had a system that there was a block or a firewall, we would not even be able to open it. So we always recommend individuals submit their resume as a PDF because it is a universal application that most Fair enough, not all, but most employers will be able to access your resume quite easily. So I think I have a question here. Yes, get you the interview, not the job. How do you submit resume? So on Teamwork Online, or even if you're going through Women in Soccer and you go to Teamwork Online, because all of our opportunities are posted on Women in Soccer as well, you simply just have to save your Word document as a PDF and upload that PDF as the file on Teamwork Online. So it will accept a PDF profile of your resume. So, and I know we just have 5 minutes. I will try to go very quickly, but if anybody has questions, please let me know. Interviewing, just a few things to keep in mind. And yes, thanks for posting those open opportunities. When you are interviewing, it is okay to be nervous. We are all human. The person interviewing you is human as well. We understand nerves come with the territory. Even if you've been on hundreds of interviews, having a little nerves when you are certainly trying to just make sure you do your best, that's okay. Embrace it. Do what you can to practice and be prepared. The best way to calm your nerves is to be prepared and to practice ahead of time. The session before us, a great tool, not only from an athlete standpoint, but if you look good and you feel good, you're gonna do good. So look good, feel prepared, and go out there and really be prepared to not knock your interviewer across the room with your skills. So know your resume. I cannot stress enough, there are times in the interview process where we will ask candidates to just take us through their resume, and they'll read straight off their resume. You should know your experience and you should know the highlights of your resume. Lead with your strengths, but acknowledge your opportunities. One interview question that I ask in every interview, not every interviewer is the same, but I ask every candidate to identify the 3 areas of value that they feel they would bring to the organization and the role. I will tell you, if the candidate has a hard time identifying those values, it gives us a hard time to identify if they are the right candidate. Know your strengths and know where you could add value to an organization. And then also know the basics of the organization. So whether it is just doing a quick review of the website, maybe knowing a few initiatives that the organization is currently working on, if you can weave those into your interview process, that is key, and that will stand out as you being very interested in the opportunity to an interviewer. Again, going back to using active voice and active verbs, we want to know what you had an impact on in your role, not necessarily what a team did that you had a small role in. That's okay to use that as an example, but then just speak on the impact you had. Use terms like I, not necessarily we, when you're talking about your personal and professional experience that's applicable to the role you are interviewing for. Use examples and be specific. Do not assume the interviewer's question. So be sure to hold until you understand what the entirety of the question is before you answer. Typically, interviewers have a finite amount of time to do the entire process. We usually are working on hard stops. So we want to make sure that that time is really diving in to the questions that are being asked as they are serving a purpose in us evaluating the candidacy. Be very thoughtful and responsive. So seems very basic. If you do not understand the question, ask for clarity. If you need a little bit of time to formulate your response, a great way to buy yourself just a few moments is to repeat the question back to the interviewer to, 1, clarify that you understand what they are asking for, and 2, buy yourself a few moments to really think of an applicable example. And that leads me to the STAR method. And this is for behavior behavioral interviewing. The STAR method, and you can dive into more detail, quick Google search, is a great way to answer questions like, tell me about a time that was challenging to you. Tell me about a time that you had many opportunities and directions that you could have gone and you had to choose one. The STAR method stands for situation, task, action, and results. And that's going to help you navigate those behavioral questions as you move through that process. I'll go through the last ones just very quickly. Soft skills and body language, I know we're right at 4, are very key. Eye contact, keep energy up, even on phone interviews, even if it's not virtual. If the person can't see you, even if you're smiling and you're upbeat, we can hear that through the phone, regardless of sight or vision for you, whether it's in person or virtual. So keep that energy upbeat on the phone as well. Know a little bit about your interviewer. LinkedIn is a wonderful tool to do that. Have at least one question prepared. I will tell you, I always enjoy when candidates ask, what drew you to USL, or what do you like most about USL? Because it's giving them an opportunity to vet the organization as well as we are vetting them through the process, and always inquire about next steps and sending a follow-up. So just a few reminders as we wrap up. You are capable. Go in, be confident, be well prepared, ask for advice and feedback from friends, family, colleagues, networking individuals before you start the process, because then you are going to be even more prepared to ace that interview once you are there on site. Lead with the value you will bring. Numerous times we get a number of candidates for any given role. We are looking for high potential and value, and to bring that within the organization. If you don't lead with it and you do not showcase it through the process, it makes it hard for us to pinpoint as we are looking through candidates as well. Know the organization's basic information. Quick review of their website to weave in current initiatives into the conversation, which will stick out in our mind. And you should always, always be vetting the organization just as much as they are vetting you. Does that organization align with your passions, with where you want to dedicate your time and energy? These are all invaluable resources, time and energy that we have. We want to protect them and make sure that we are using them in areas that also fulfill our purpose too. Practice and be prepared, and go out there and land your dream role. I know it was very quick and trying to stay on time, but always, always, always available. My contact information is here. And again, I will be staying for the networking session. So would love, love, love to connect with you guys. But if you do not, my contact information is here for you. With that.
Thank you so much, Rachel. From one Rachel to another, you have given us so much useful information. That STAR acronym is going to stick with me for a while. Situation, task, action, and results. And one other nugget, everyone I'm sure has different takeaways, but one other nugget I have to mention is around your resume getting you the interview. It's not novel, but just by the way of framing it, it helps you look at it in a much more manageable way, because it's intimidating. Like you said, out the very gate, it's a pain in the butt to do your own resume, but you've just given us a lot of tools to make that a little bit easier. Rachel said it, please get out there, go network. We've heard how powerful networking is, and all day long from all of our experts. Don't forget, Women in Soccer is here to help continue these conversations beyond just this event. Get into the network, womeninsoccer.org/join-us. It is free. There is a place for you as an ally if you're not already there, and similarly as an expert and a community member. This has been incredible. We hope you've gotten as much out of it as we have here. A last and final thank you so much to everyone that's still with us. I know there's only a few of us left, but what an amazing day. I know I've had such a blast. I hope you all have had as much fun too. I've adorned myself with my pins. They're ready for action. I left my ally pin on my right because I think it's really important and I wanted to highlight it in its own space. But what a day. We started with allyship and advocacy for women in coaches. We talked about how the power of being able to change, being aware of your lens, and being able to bring the next person forward by knowing your passion and your purpose and your pathway is so important. And then we talked through, we had fun. We also talked through management and the realities of the game. And we talked through the power of media and its significance in being seen. Subscribe, get ready for that. But I could go on. I will let Courtney do our final closing message where she touches on all of these points and of course sends you off with some inspiration. But before I do, we have one trivia question. We love trivia here at Women in Soccer that you all will be able to guess in the chat, and your prize is a New Mexico United jersey. So in honor of the New Mexico United team and Chanel Weesey, who led our Diversity Fellowship Program workshop, of which I will send you the presentation so you all can go out and create more Diversity Fellowship programs for more folks to be seen in the industry. Yes, Felicia also spent Women in Soccer merch. It's coming. We're going to ask a question from her presentation. So, I know there's some people who are really particular and keen out there. I want to make sure I have the question exactly right. Of the 73 head coaches between the MLS, USL Championship, and USL League One, how many are people of color? And a bonus, how many of them are women? So there's 73 coaches. Of these 73 coaches, how many are people of color? And how many are women? First number should be how many are people of color? 21 coaches of color. All right, listen, here's what we'll do. I think that, Spencer, because you got 0 first, Javier nailed it, but I think Spencer got 0 first on the women front. So we will figure a way to get you some stuff in that jersey, Spencer. Thanks so much for being here. I will now pass it to Courtney to close this out. Courtney, please take us away.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you for your stellar hostessness today. You were brilliant all day. Thank you so much for your passion and commitment. And for those of you who went the distance with us, I couldn't be more grateful. Today we take small steps to make sure that our soccer industry represents everyone who loves it, and that we have the people working in and around the industry in these expert level leadership roles that are making decisions. And if anything, it's led me to close this with so much hope, joy, and optimism that this community is growing in such a really inclusive way. And we are so excited to celebrate this platform and to connect you with these amazing women who work in the game. There's so many ways to work in soccer. So come and get your voice heard, celebrate the game, celebrate your creativity, your reffing, fairness, follow the rules type personality. Let it be an exercise through the game, okay? Join us in creating these pathways, put your name in there, source your candidates. This is where it can all happen. So we are so grateful for everybody who joined us, and we are excited to see you again very soon. Please tell us when you get hired and what your new position is, and let's partner up. We're stronger together. Thank you very much, Women in Soccer community, and we will see you again next time.